Good morning everyone. Welcome to this lovely, it's sunny and chilly here. I'm not looking at the window because I've got the curtain shut because it's that sunny that I am actually, I actually can't, you only got half my face, hadn't you, Jen?
Yeah, and we want the whole beauteous face, thanks very much.
Yeah, that's one way of putting it. So as you can see, I've got my lovely Jenny with me today. So Jenny isn't rent a vlogger. She is she is available for hire though, should you require a guest. But Jenny's for those of you who perhaps have joined us more recently, I'm just checking out my Facebook page so I can see when people comment, because otherwise we can't see on here, can we? Jenny's been my friend for some years, poor thing, haven't you, Jen?
It's been a blessing. Every day is a blessing with Claire.
It's been an adventure, hasn't it? An adventure, we'll call it an adventure. Oh, Sue's watching. Good morning, Sue. Lovely Sue Perrett is watching, our guest from last week. Sue, who knows so much about rugby. Oh, Jen's had enough and got up and walked out. If I did that right, she's back. She's back.
Sorry, I was just getting an intake of milk and cookie for later sort of thing. I'd forgotten to do it, so I'd sent a man who could get me sorted.
We all need a man that can get us sorted, don't we? Well, or a lady that can get us sorted. Let's not be homophobic. Yes. or there's some men that need a man and there's some women that need a woman. It's anyway. Oh, Trish is watching as well. Good morning, Trish. I know my neighbour's going to join us. Yeah, so now I've got my camera, my phone on there. We can see the comments because we've been playing around with our friends. Oh, and lovely Laura's here as well. We've been playing around with various things with our friend Sue, haven't we, for the various things we're involved in, and it's really difficult when you can't see the comments because it looks like you're ignoring people. So if you see my eyes going, it's because I'm checking out my phone to see the comments. What was that one we used? Was it got the duck on it? Barnyard? No, something yard
something, wasn't
yard
it?
stream.
Yard stream, that's the one.
And you could see the comments live, which was really good. But we did find that Sue did find that the sound quality was a bit echo, didn't she? But anyway, so we'll make a start, sorry. So Sue's here. She loves playing around. It's StreamYard, not barnyard. Yeah, StreamYard. Well, we're a couple of animals. Perhaps it should be a barnyard. Yeah, so as you know, you've all met Jenny before. Everybody that's watching definitely knows Jenny. Jen is a friend of mine from about 5 years now. In fact, probably longer. It's probably quite scarily longer. And as well as doing all sorts of amazing things with her business, All Heart Led, she is also the main woman at Kent Goddess Group, aren't you, Jen?
Yeah, I've been facilitating that now for about 3 years, and I've been a member for at least 10, I think, sort of thing. And kind of running it was thrust onto me as other facilitators had got the call and gone off to Glastonbury or gone off to do their own work. But it's a lovely group of women. It's a women's ceremonial group, but we are trans and non-binary inclusive. So do you think it includes you? It does.
Yep. Yeah, it certainly does. Oh, morning, Sylvie, as well. Talking to Kent Goddess Group, there's Sylvie as well, so that's great. So today we're going to have a bit of a chat about Imbolc, which is this festival that is celebrated. Well, some people say it's tomorrow, the 1st, and some people like to say it's the 2nd. Jen, what's your take on that?
I tend to take my cues from nature. I think once I've seen some snowdrops, it's feeling Imbolc-y to me. And in terms of a kind of ritual setting, we always meet the Sunday nearest Sabbath sort of thing. So I definitely think there's a little bit of wiggle room.
Wiggle room. I mean, I tend to go for the 1st because that's my son's birthday. So it's a natural thing for me to celebrate that day anyway. And it's a day of celebration and it's a day of birth, which is one of the key themes of Imbolc as well, isn't it?
Mm.
I know some people say it's the 2nd, and obviously this is in the northern hemisphere, so obviously in the southern hemisphere it is Is it Lammas? It's Lammas, isn't it?
Yes.
In the southern hemisphere, it's Lammas. So wherever you are, it's and that's the first, isn't it? So it's strange, isn't it?
And also, I think if you're that interested into it, you can find websites that will tell you the astrological timing of events.
That's true. And it's, yeah, I mean, some people say the first, some say the second, and it's also people celebrate it from overnight as well, don't they? They sort of sundown, you know, all the way through. So, and it's supposed to be based on a Celtic tradition, isn't it? That's,
yeah, I mean,
it's one of the older ones, I believe, isn't it?
Yeah, and in a lot of traditions, it's a very feminine festival.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I know the Celts do something with Bridget, the goddess, and also in, I think it's one of the northern traditions, there's a day of worship around this time of year, which is for the female ancestors.
Oh, I've posted about that this morning. It's Disseblot.
Yes.
Or Disting as well. That's Norse, and it's to do with some people say it's to do with Freya, some say it's to do with the Valkyries. But that is to do with female ancestors and female spirits. So it is a very feminine tradition, isn't it? Good morning, Mark from Belper in Derbyshire. Nice to see you here. So, and also it marks the halfway point between the winter and the spring solstice. And something I didn't realise till I was doing a little bit of research is that sort of the Feast of St. Bridget, which has become Candlemas, is on the 2nd, and that's 40 days after Christmas in the Christian calendar. And I had to sit and count it out, and I didn't think it was 40, but that keeps telling me it's 40 days, which is also, 40 is a magical number, isn't it, really? Because that's I think Easter is, what's 40 days? Lent's 40 days, isn't it?
Yeah. Lent's
40 days, and that's the amount of time Christ was in the wilderness. And also there's a St. Swithin's folklore about Whit Sunday that's 40 days, isn't it? If it rains on Whit Sunday, it will rain for 40 days, won't it?
Yes, I think that it's very kind of significant.
Yes, there's obviously a 40, I don't know what the 40 significance is. So obviously there's Candlemas on the 2nd, and there's Groundhog Day on the 2nd as well, which you've probably seen the film with Bill Murray.
Yeah.
Which is a huge favourite of mine, because his face is just, and we love Bill Murray. Me and my friend Vic, as kids, we loved Ghostbusters. So she loved Bill Murray, and I loved Dan Aykroyd an awful lot. They were our like very strange crushes as teenage girls. We love them, we don't care. And she has a son called Billy, and I have a son called Dan, and we didn't realise till we were talking about it a few years ago that actually we named our boys after teenage crushes of Bill Murray and Dan Aykroyd. Not that we did that on purpose. If Dan, you're watching, he's a great man. But that the Groundhog Day is based on it's in Dutch Pennsylvania, and it's based on a similar German Candlemas custom, which involved badgers. Now, I kept saying beavers when I was reading this through last night, because I've been watching Winter Watch. But the Pennsylvania Dutch are actually German, not Dutch, funnily enough. So
I've also heard that in Ireland there was a tradition with either badgers or snakes and coming out, and I'm wondering if that's kind of cross-influenced with settlers in America, sort of thing.
Of course,
they would have all taken their customs with them.
Yeah, and yeah, I've got a bit more about the folklore later on about Groundhog Day. But yeah, I mean, and like the Pennsylvania Dutch are actually from Chile, and we know that a lot of Irish folk went to America, didn't they? It was a huge destination point to flee, you know, the famine and the poverty. So I think they probably did, you know, put their traditions in, which is what we're finding through history, is that lots of traditions have been shared and mutated. And, you know, we do our own thing as well, don't we, with what day we choose. And even the name, because you say Imbolc.
Yeah.
And I say Imbolc. Somewhere along the line, I read or was told that you dropped the B. I can't remember who, where, why, what, when, and it doesn't matter. But you always say Imbolc, and you can also call it Imolg with a G, don't you?
Yeah.
Which pronounces as Imol or Imbol, and there's also an Oimlek.
Yeah.
Which is probably not how you pronounce it. So anybody who's Irish or Gaelic. I apologise for that now, because it's got Irish origins, hasn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, I was always taught that Imbolc means in the belly,
Yeah.
and oil milk means use milk, sort of thing.
Oh, okay.
So there's that whole thing about the gestation of sheep, because your cows wouldn't be lactating at this time of year, but your sheep would have. So you would have been, you know, if you drank milk, you would be siphoning off some of that milk to make milk and cheese. And if you just got through a hard winter, that extra sustenance would have been life-saving.
Okay, and I knew it was to do with used milk, but I didn't know that. I suppose now with the farming, cows lactate the whole time because it's in. But you know, naturally they wouldn't be. But of course, the ewes are now probably in
the belly.
What are baby sheep called?
Lambs.
Lambs.
And sheep lactation will obviously be my, you know, new party piece sort of thing. Ask me anything. I know what baby sheep are called.
You know, your brain just goes blank, and I was thinking, all I could think of was cubs and calves, and I knew it wasn't either of those. So move face palm, says Laura. Yeah, that's what a baby sheep called. I did go to school. I did. I didn't do much when I was there, but I did go. So obviously that is from the lactation of sheep, and also it's to do with the purification and cleansing, isn't it? Which, because when we were having a bit of a read up on this, and there's a quote by Doreen Valiente, and it was spring cleaning was originally a nature ritual, and we were talking about this before we came live, didn't we? Because we look as though we're sitting in tidy places. Well, we're not. Our little patch behind us is tidy, and then we both confess that the only tidy patch in where we're sitting is actually our altars. The rest of the room is definitely in need of a tidy up, and I'd show you my altar, but the sunlight is coming in so much, so like we said, you only see half my face. But it's definitely that time of year, and like you said, Jen, you'd be smelling a bit funky, wouldn't you? The house and the people in it would be a bit funky after.
Yeah, you've been shut up all winter. You've probably got a cow and a sheep with you, and you're probably smelling ripe. Your family are probably smelling a bit ripe. You're going to have this sheep that's going to give birth soon, so you need to give everything a little bit of a spit and polish. And I don't know about yourself, but as we were saying, my altar is quite lovely at the moment. Shall I pan around so you can have a quick look?
If you want to.
My best, so if you can see kind of over
Oh,
there,
that's nice.
that's my altar. And because I've done that little bit, I know that afterwards I'll be sitting here thinking, that looks really nice. Let's get our fingers out and get everything else sorted.
Let's
at the moment.
Get going.
It always looks worse before it looks better, doesn't it? So everything was pulled off of the Yule altar this morning about 8 o'clock, and I've just been sitting here sorting out the ladies, seeing who wants to sit on the altar with me for this Sabbath sort of thing. So I have got Bridget, Ixchel, Pele and Hestia. So all ladies of like creativity and inspiration, awakening, and the hearth.
Yeah. Which are the key themes of Imbolc as well, aren't they? And it's my altar's not finished. It's a work in progress, which is morning, Soph. Oh, my beautiful baby, he's here. Because of I think it's important that I know you've said this before, and so have I, that if you do the best with what you've got. Yeah. And I have to confess too that last night I came up to bed and went, oh, I've still got holly on there, and yanked it all off and tidied it up last night, and all the bits of incense that had fallen all over the place. And you see all these super duper altars on social media and everything's perfect, and actually if you've got just a candle on yours, perfect. Absolutely perfect, isn't it? It hasn't got to be all singing or dancing. And like I made some sending love to all. Oh, that's my beautiful girl. I made some some traditional cake for the ritual later on. I managed to hide it from the trucker, and it was full of meatballs and pasta, so it was okay. But I hadn't got all the right ingredients. I was like, oh well, that'll do. Chuck that in, and I know we're both passionate about. You can imagine things. You can. It's the intent that's there, which we'll talk about a bit when we come to our ritual too, won't we?
Yeah.
Yeah. So you talked about some of the key themes there, and the earth awakening and the life starting to stir, and that's. You said earlier on, you take your key from nature for the date, don't you? And I think that's important. Someone said it's a season as well, didn't they? The season of Imbolc, I read.
Yeah, I think all of the Sabbats are a season sort of thing. So I know that I went to work physically to my place of work. I was rotated on for a day to be in the office, and I hadn't been physically going to work for a little while. And I noticed in my taxi ride over that it was a lot lighter, a lot earlier sort of thing. And I can see the fields. And then in a couple of weeks' time, I'll see the sheep out in the fields sort of thing. So it is definitely a season. And I do think we can get a little bit bogged down by doing things by the book rather than trusting our instincts.
Yeah, because let's face it, our great grannies, 50 generations ago, wouldn't have gone, I'm just going to pop into town for a nice green candle. You'd have had your tallow candle and you'd have muttered what you wanted to mutter into that, and you wouldn't have had a showy altar because you would have been, potentially taken as a witch, and, our really ancient ancestors, they'd have been grateful for whatever fire there was, wouldn't they? Yeah. To sit round. So some of the Imbolc associations I know you mentioned one yesterday. We've mentioned a couple already. One of them being the flame, which is associated with Bridget, which is creativity and the protective hearth. So one of the ones I know you were beautiful about. Something's popped up, but you can be beautiful about it. You were talking. Something popped up and it said beautiful something. You know how subliminal messages are, and because this notification come up, it was beautiful something. I was like, you had a beautiful thing, but you did your snowdrops, didn't you?
Yeah, I was talking to Sue Allsworth about this today, because I was looking at my garden, looking for me signs of spring, thinking my snowdrops aren't up, because I remember buying a load of bulbs last year so I could grow my own, to maybe snip one off to pop on the altar. And I'm sitting there and I'm looking and I'm looking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking, and I think, well, you bought the bulbs, but you didn't plant them. So there's a lesson in that. And I popped out yesterday and I saw some at the supermarket. So I picked myself up some little snowdrops to put on my altar. And I think what I love about the snowdrop is kind of its resilience, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's the first thing that is brave enough to stick its head above the ground, so oh, it's a bit chilly, isn't it?
It's a bit chilly, but I'll give it a go. Yeah, definitely. Just saying not planting them is right up there with forgetting the word for lamb.
It's that tiny little green shoot, and then that really delicate little white flower that could in a hard frost just be blighted.
But it's still trying, isn't it? And that's just that beautiful reawakening, isn't it? And obviously other associations are the sheep that we mentioned earlier on, the serpent, which you mentioned.
Yeah, as I said, I don't know huge amounts, but weren't all the serpents driven out of Ireland?
Was that St. Patrick, I think, wasn't it?
St. Patrick, isn't it, sort of thing.
And I think they're associated with creativity and inspiration.
But I think they're also related to the divine feminine, isn't it? And that's what St. Patrick is driving out, pagan traditions. Now, I'm not necessarily sure all of that's 100% accurate. It's just something in my brain. So if you know better than us,
Jen said it, not me.
Comment below, sort of thing.
They did.
Yeah, snakes being about transformation and female sexuality and the kundalini, all of that sort of thing. I think if it's not true, it sounds like it's true.
I think it's a very good interpretation of it. And it is, it was driving the snakes out was it was I think it's definitely a metaphor rather than literal, he's shooing all these snakes out. It is definitely, and it is to do with Christianity. And the swans, they mate for life, don't they? And the swans represent fidelity and faithfulness, apparently.
And yeah, loyalty sort of thing. And I know down in the Glastonbury landscape, I don't know a lot of this, but you've got the swan, haven't you, within the Glastonbury landscape? And I think that's why she's linked very much to Glastonbury and Avalon.
It's a mound, isn't it, that's kind of shaped like a swan. I have seen that. Yeah, I'd have to find a picture of that and put up. The Bridgets Cross, now I find is incredibly difficult to make. That's where you fold reeds over. Oh, Trish says she loves the snowdrops. So beautiful, and they appear when everything feels so cold. I have them in my garden. That's because you planted them, Trish.
And there's a lesson in that. If you want seeds to grow, you've got to plant the bulbs.
Yeah, I have to admit, I find bulbs and I think, I think I was supposed to plant those a few years ago. But the Bridget's Cross is you fold it round, and it's finding the reeds. You need reeds to do that with, really, for them to work. And of course, the Bridget doll, or the bridie doll. Now, that's something I haven't made. I've made like a little corn dolly before, but you've actually made a bridie doll, haven't you? And a bed for her.
Yeah, well, we've done this 2 years in a row. So not this year, we're doing something completely different this year. But last year and the year before that, the first year, we made dolls just out of a really simple wooden spoon. So we got a wooden spoon, we had all the kind of yarn and that, so we picked one that matched our own hair colour.
Cool.
And then we made her a little outfit sort of thing. So, it would have cost less than £1 to make this thing. This is not about going out and getting a load of expensive bits, stuff you had laying around sort of thing. And you could always deconstruct it afterwards if you wanted to keep your wooden spoon. But, we made all of ours and we named them, and we all gave them. So I can remember Pam was Playful Honey. I was Joyous Jen, and we just sat there, and once you've got that in your hand, we go, hello, how are you today, sort of thing. It really does connect you with your inner child. And obviously, traditionally, people would have created in their hearts a bed to welcome the goddess Bridget in, sort of thing. And if you saw a little footprint in the ashes, you know that she'd been to visit you. So another year we got the little peg dolls, and we went to the works, and they do those little wooden boxes for a couple of quid.
Yeah,
and we decorated one of those. We put a little bit of wool batting in it. We put, to make the bed for Bridie, we put Bridie in there, and then we all engraved and decorated the boxes with our word for the year, and we've discussed that in
Oh wow.
And it was just something really, really nice to do.
And it's I like the footprint in the ashes. It's a bit Santa Clausy, isn't it? And it also feels to me a bit doll's housey, which was something that in a way, and I thought that making the bed was a little bit like having the house. I don't know if you saw the live I did about the Caliac, where they had that where is it, Tyne Botach in the valley of the Caliac in Scotland, in the Cairngorms. They made like a really crude it's slate and rock, and then with a roof, and they have 3 really crude figures that they bring them out in the summer and put them back in the shelter in the winter. And I just thought there was a connection to that, because the Caliac is we've got a poem about it later on, and the Caliac gives way to Bridget, or the bridie, doesn't she?
Yeah.
So that's, I just think there's all these things connect, don't they? I have got a bridie doll that my friend, sorry, let me get this down. My lovely friend Tina, you remember Tina that came and spoke? When we were in it, she knitted us all a doll. Mine's actually got candle wax all over it, but she knitted us a bridie doll, and that was, I'd got clothes in that colour, so I have got a bridie doll. We all had to give each other a little gift, and that was the one she knitted. So obviously you've done the corn. Have you made a corn bridie doll before?
I must admit, we tend to make Anne out of lavender.
Oh, I bet they smell nice.
And they are really nice. And then you can have, you know, like a really bushy lavender skirt for her sort of thing. But again, it's using, adapting what you have to hand.
I was going to have a go later on, and I've actually got a load of like wooden packing. I was thinking, I don't know what to do with it, but I'm going to have a go with shaping that into one later on. So we said about the fires, and obviously it's a celebration of candles as well, isn't it? Hence, I guess the Candlemas, bringing the light in. So that's, I always have lots of candles around for Imbolc. And one of the other things it's connected with is visiting a sacred well.
Yeah, and I think that's really interesting, isn't it? Because, you know, we associate Bridget with fire and with water, so she's got that dual aspect to
Strange,
it.
isn't it?
On the Will podcast, we had this lovely guy called Christian come on, and he's from Pennsylvania, and he's a Reiki master, and he was saying that they don't have a tradition of clootie tying in Pennsylvania, which I found really, really interesting.
Wow.
He was saying that, you know, holy wells are like what he imagines his insides to be like.
I heard you say that.
Sacred inspiration rising up from you. And I just thought that was a beautiful metaphor.
Because we are, what, 80% water?
Yeah.
Something like 80% water, aren't we? Wow.
And yeah, that's just amazing.
That is an amazing idea. And it is funny that she's fire and water, isn't she?
Yeah, because I don't know of ones that have that similar association.
No. Strange, isn't it? Yeah. You're right there. Got a bit of feedback. So some of the Imbolc traditions I found is to, at sunset or just after a ritual where you lit every lamp in the house or light candles in each room to honour the sun's rebirth. And I also discovered that some covens have their ritual maiden who wears a Bridget crown, a wreath made of flowers and green grass sporting 12 small candles. Do that very carefully if you do that, as a representation of the fiery goddess. Now, what do you have a goddess for? Do you have a goddess of Beltane, don't you? The maiden of, what do you have? The because you were it last year, weren't you?
Oh, Queen of the May.
Queen of the May, that's it. And that's a similar thing with the flowery crown, isn't it?
Yes.
Okay, so I've just got a little bit of folklore, and so there's the obviously the one I've mentioned before about the Kaliak, and if on Imbolc, which I say is the first, it's dry, it means she's out and abroad collecting firewood, which means winter's going to last a bit longer. But if it's a cold, wet, rainy day, she's in her cave and she's asleep, so winter will soon end. And that's worked for me for the last few years. So I'll be interested to see what the weather is tomorrow. And the other one was about Groundhog Day. Now this is in Pennsylvania at a rather amazingly named place called Gobbler's Knob. I kid you not. I was roaring.
Maiden's having a riot with that.
And it's Punxsutawney Phil. Sorry for if that's pronounced wrong, in Gobbler's Knob in Pennsylvania. We're just going to giggle about that. And he portends the weather, because if he comes out, sees his shadow and comes back in again, it predicts his 6 more weeks of winter. And if he comes out and doesn't run away, then the winter's breaking. But he's only right about 39% of the time.
But again, that really fits back, doesn't it, to these stories about Bridget and the Kaliak, because in some myths the Kaliak drinks from a well of youth, and is renewed and is born again as Bridget. Yes. And in some myths the Kaliak has Bridget as a what's the word for prisoner sort of thing, and she has to escape somehow, sort of thing.
Well, this, you're all going to have to sit down for 5 minutes if you haven't already, because I've got a poem. It's quite long, but it is the Kaliak breed. I'm pronouncing bride as breed.
Right.
Because it rhymes better. And Angus Og, or How the Battle of Spring Was Won. So it's a bit of an epic.
Ooh,
so if you are ready, Yeah, if you no, it won't last more than 25 minutes. You'll be fine. No, it's not that long. Right. So, if you're ready, this is the battle of how spring was won. The ancient legends of long ago tell of an icy realm of frost and snow, ruled by Cailleach the crone, hard and unyielding as a stone. Each spring when warmer days should come, she hid the land from rays of sun. The earth stayed bare, no green would show, frozen rivers barely dared to flow. She roamed the frozen wastes of land, her fearsome staff in withered hand, and stamped out any sign of growth with muttered ancient cursing oath. Crone kidnapped the beautiful maiden breed, and although she tried to beg and plead, she kept her wretched as a slave and hid her in her foul dark cave. The maiden asked each day to be set free. The Cailleach laughed and smirked with glee. When this marked fleece is white as snow, I will consent to let you go. Each winter's day she sent her forth to dark icy waters in the north. Breed scrubbed and scrubbed to no avail. Her hands were frozen cold and pale. When Father Winter came a-wandering, he stopped and listened to her sing. Enchanted and tender to her plight, he shook the fleece till purest white. The grateful maiden ran back home to show her captor, the heartless crone. She picked some snowdrops on the way to celebrate this fateful day. The crone went wild, she shrieked with ire, whilst bride possessed of new-found fire claimed her right and left her prison, just like a fiery phoenix risen. Her flight was watched by Crone's own son, known as Angus Og, the ever-young, who had ere only seen breed in his dreams, now knew he saw his wondrous queen. Through greening lands he rode his horse, and found fair breed amongst the gorse, proclaimed his love on bended knee, and kissed her under a rowan tree. The raging crone was wild and mean, with horror she saw the land turn green, shy violets emerging in darkest hue, frozen waters flowing blue. She cast a spell to call forth a gale of sleet and snow, of wind and hail. The storm raged on for 3 more days, the land a bitter wintry haze. She knew that if she crushed all new life down, she could still wear her wintry crown. But if Angus married Breed the fair, she'd be banished back to her dark, dank lair. No sign of spring was left to show, all life was vanished deep below. At last the crone had thought she'd won. She hadn't counted on her son. Now Angus Og was calm and wise. He had up his sleeve one last surprise. He borrowed 3 days from summer's end, and warm winds and sun began to send. While Crone slept her exhausted sleep of glee, the buds unfurled on every tree. The grass grew green across the land. Flowers bloomed when touched by Breed's own hand. So that's the tale of how spring became, and every year the battle flames. Crone tries to fight with cold and rain, yet every year she fights in vain. Spring bursts forth, then summer too, with sunny days and skies of blue, until the autumn chill draws near, and we know that winter will appear. The Cailleach will stir and claim her throne, and take her place as winter crone, bringing with her darkness bleak and cold. And so, at last, my tale is told.
I thoroughly enjoyed that. And was that penned by your own fair hand?
Might have been. Might have been. So I know have you got a lovely little poem about snowdrops?
Well, I've got one, and like me, it's incredibly short.
It's short but beautiful, like you.
Right, let me just get it up for you. So every January for the last 2 years, I have been participating in the January challenge from the 64 million artists. And this was written yesterday on the prompt of shh. And it was about hiding some poetry somewhere for someone to find. Now, I didn't get out until I was out yesterday before I saw the prompt, so I didn't want to make another trip out just to hide a poem. So I hid something in the poem. And if Claire is very clever, she might get it. Shh. See the green peaking. Heads up, the swan white petals. Harbingers, seasons, heralds. Transition, here for all. Renewal of hope for the lengthening daylight.
Wow.
I will send it to you because it's probably something you'll find easier if you can see it than hear it.
Okay, I was trying to work out the letters. Am I on the right?
Oh, you're warm.
Thought so. Thought so. I think there's a hidden word in there if you look at the letters, but I couldn't keep up with it. Awesome. Okay, thanks, Jen. Yeah, if you put that up when on the live, and if people would see if they can suss it. So, we've just got a short ritual for you all. So, this is taken and amended from learnreligions.com and theseasonalsoul.com. We've blended a couple together and mixed around. And again, this is something that Jenny and myself both feel that you know it is a time of creativity and all that, but sometimes you don't quite know what you want to do. And or there's nothing wrong in finding a template or a ritual somebody else has written and changing it to suit your own, or using it straight as it is. And obviously we've changed this, and obviously when you've done this as well with Kent Goddess Group, but you say where it's from. You just credit that it's not completely your idea, and there's nothing wrong with that, because if people want to look them up, they can go and look them up. So both of us feel very much that you don't need to have any special equipment. That Jenny's wand is her finger, isn't it, Jen? She always waves her finger around and says it's really powerful. And if you think you point or it is powerful, and people can spend a fortune on expensive equipment. Now we have got a bit of candle envy, well, not envy, candle showing off this morning, haven't we? Because we're going to use tea lights for this, because most people have got those lurking around. Though I have got my son and his other half bought me for Christmas some candles, and this is a very big candle. I have probably got the biggest candle I've ever held in my life. And I'm like, when am I going to use it? What am I going to use it for? It's got to be something special. I'm like, it's going to be my bridey candle, and it's going to be used for the whole of Imbolc. So that's going to burn down a bit every day. So bearing in mind what you said in the season. So if you want to join in with us, you need a little unlit candle. So a little tea light will do if you've got a candle to hand, something to eat and drink, whatever you've got to hand, something special if you want to. And if you don't want to, or if you can't go and get something, use your imagination and visualize them. The intent's so much more important than the practical aspects, isn't it, Jen?
Yeah, definitely.
Okay, so if you're all ready, I've got my matches and my candle. I've got something.
Right, I'm just going to grab mine.
Yeah. So if let me get these. See, it's so much. You could spend a fortune on all these things, and actually what you've got in your house, like we said earlier, there you go, would be perfect. So I'll hand you over to Jen.
At this time of the returning night and returning spring, our ancestors lit bonfires and candles to celebrate the rebirth of the land. In many areas of the Celtic world, there was the fire feast for Bridget, the Irish goddess of hearth and home. So I have set up my altar with symbols of Bridget and of the coming spring. I've got some photos of Bridget. I've got some snowdrops on my altar. And you can put white, green, red yarns and ribbons, or fresh young twigs, and lots of candles. So we will cast a circle, if that's part of your practice. So I'll hand over to Claire for doing the elements.
I call to the element of north, the element of earth, the dark, silent land beneath our feet that will soon burst into life. I bid you hail and welcome. I call to the east, to the element of air, for the wind that blows round us and brings the seeds of change into our lives. I bid you hail and welcome. I call to the south, to the element of fire, the returning sun that lights our days, and as they lengthen, I bid you hail and welcome. And I call to the west, to the element of water, the rains that allow our land to hydrate and bring refreshing change with them. I bid you hail and welcome.
Hail and welcome. So I call in the ladies of this time: Bridget, Bride, Breed, Brigantia, all the flower maidens like Hebe and Flora, and all the goddesses of the hearth like Hestia and Vesta. I call to the gods of this time, the young gods like Angus Og, and Faunus and Eros, who bids us love us that little bit more. Gods of youth and vigour. And I call to the ancestors, those people of place and of blood who have walked this land before us. And I call to the spirit of place and to the tribes of the Cantiarchy. Hail and welcome.
Hail and welcome. Thank you. Today is Imbolc, the day of midwinter. The cold has begun to fade away and the days grow longer. This is a time in which the earth is quickening, like the womb of Bridget, birthing the fire after the darkness.
And we will both light our Bridget candles. Bright blessings at midwinter to all. Bridget has returned with her sacred flame, watching over home and hearth. It's a time of rebirth and fertility. And as the earth grows full of life, may you find abundance in your own path. Imbolc is the season of lambing, of new life, and a time to celebrate the nurturing and warmth of Bridget. Light your own candle now, if you wish to.
So this is just milk. Well, this is rice milk, but may Bridget give you her blessings to you this season.
And here's just a little cookie. May Bridget's love and light nurture your path.
Thank you. And I've got a special bannock that I made. Put these on the altar. Come and allow the warmth of Bridget's hearth to embrace you. Allow the light of her flame to guide you. Allow the love of her blessing to protect you.
And I've got some more tea lights on my altar. So I'm just going to light the first one. Even though we are still in winter, there is new life stirring in the darkness. And I'm going to light my second one. I call in the light and the fire of the growing sun, and I call on its power to spark new life deep in the dark. Like fire, wisdom, inspiration, and new life grow, just like these first spring flowers stirring in the dark. And I visualise these four flames coming together as one. And as the light builds, I see the energy growing in a purifying light. I call on these flames to cleanse and purify us as we move into the new time of life coming manifest. Fire of the hearth, blaze of the sun. Fill me in your shining light. Blessed be.
Blessed be. Thank you, Jen. So take a few minutes and meditate on the light of Bridget's candle and think about this sacred day, the time of healing and inspiration and purification. Do you have something damaged that needs to be healed? Are you feeling stagnant for lack of inspiration? Is there some part of your life that feels toxic or tainted? Visualize this light as warm, enveloping energy that wraps itself around you, healing your ailments, igniting the spark of creativity, and purifying the world, purifying that which is damaged. And take these thoughts with you as we close our circle.
So, to the spirits of place that have watched over these rites, stay if you will, go if you must. Hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell.
To the ancestors who are always just a prayer away, thank you for attending this rite. Stay if you will. Hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell.
To the lords and the ladies of this time, the gods of youthful figure and the ladies of spring and awakening, thank you for your presence here. Stay if you will, go if you must. Hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell. Thank you, Jem. So I give thanks to the element of water in the west for joining us for the refreshing rains and just joining us and making sure that we grow in ourselves as well as physically. I bid you hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell.
To the element of fire in the south, the burning sun that brings us light and brings us warmth, I thank you for joining us. I bid you hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell.
To the element of air in the east, the winds that blow and bring the seeds over and bring change to us, I thank you for joining us. I bid you hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell.
And finally to the north, the element of earth, the ground beneath us that as it wakens and comes to life but roots us through all the year, I thank you for joining us. I bid you hail and farewell.
Hail and farewell.
Oh, thank you. Thank you everyone for joining us. Hope you enjoyed that. And try not to set myself on fire with this massive candle here. So I hope you enjoyed that. It's an example of something that you can do, and you don't have to do anything wild and wonderful. But yeah, so that's us for today. And I'll be back next week with Jenny as well. Poor lady, she's agreed to come back twice. Next week, we're going to be looking at Maiden goddesses. Oh, that was beautiful, Sue and Laura are saying. Oh, you're very welcome.
Thank you.
Yeah, I'd love to. Oh, well done, goddesses. Thank you, Mark. I'd love to say I wrote it all myself, the ritual, but we know that's not true. We know. You're welcome, Trish. Yeah, we know we got it online and made it our own. We did make it our own, though, didn't we, Jen?
Yeah.
So yeah, so we'll be back next week, and we'll be talking about the maiden goddesses. Now you're going to be talking about Hebe, aren't you, and Persephone?
I'm going to be talking about Hebe and Persephone, who are two of my matrons who have. Stephanie came when I was a very tiny wee, and Hebe when I first started out on my path. So I'm looking forward to sharing those.
Okay, and I'm going to be talking about Bridget. Possibly another one as well, but there's an awful lot about Bridget because she's got about, I think there's 40 something names just on Wikipedia. I know Wikipedia isn't the be all and end all of goddessing, but yeah, so but we're going to be talking about maiden goddesses. So same time next week. I'm going to move this candle before I set fire to my hair, so making the live go. Thanks for joining us. Same time next week for about maiden goddesses. Yeah, so thanks for joining me, Jenny. As always, it's a pleasure to have you with me.
And if you are really struggling and don't think you can quite get enough of us, Sue and I are also doing a workshop at the BU Summit.
Who is Sue? Who's this Sue you speak of? Sue? Sue and I are doing there's something going on here. Well, that's it.
And I are doing a Maidens workshop at Sue's Summit.
Yes. Which we put a link in. So we're doing a short workshop, and you can get a ticket for the whole thing, isn't it? I think is it $19.99 for the whole weekend, and that's not just for us. You know you get all sorts with that, lots of exciting and wonderful things. But we'll put the link in for you to check that out if you're interested, and if you're not, just come back next week and find us for more Gobbler's Knob and not knowing what a lamb was, and forgetting to plant your snowdrops. If that's your thing, we'll see you next week.
And again, it's authentic, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, what you see here is exactly what you get. There's no airs and graces.
Yes. No. That's, I don't know if that's a good thing or not.
I think it is.
I think it is. Yeah. Right. Blessings to you all. Have a beautiful Imbolc, and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Okay, bye.
Bye.